my Toronto. VK on the beat. Check. I'm in Toronto where you wanna get the city love. I'm from Toronto where you wanna get the city love. I'm in Toronto like we wanna get the city love. My city love me back for my city love.
Welcome to episode 1041 of Toronto Mic'd. Proudly brought to you by Great Lakes Brewery, a fiercely independent craft brewery who believes in supporting communities, good times, and brewing amazing beer. Order online for free local home delivery in the GTA. StickerU.com. Create custom stickers, labels, tattoos, and decals for your home and your business. Palma Pasta. Enjoy the taste of fresh, homemade Italian pasta and entrees from Palma Pasta in Mississauga and Oakville. Ridley Funeral Home. Pillars of the community since 1921. And Canna Cabana. The lowest prices on cannabis. Guaranteed. Over 100 stores across the country. Learn more at cannacabana.com. Joining me this week, making his Toronto Mic'd debut, is James Sharman. Welcome, James.
Mike, thank you so much. I'm honored.
Look, glad to have you here. Like, you had me at James. My firstborn's name is James, and no joke, whenever I encounter like a James in the wild, I get a warm, fuzzy feeling. So I like you already.
You know, I'm actually Andrew James.
Oh, get out of here. Get the hell out of here.
I know, you know, my parents confused me from early doors. You know, I was christened Andrew James. They called me Jamie my entire life until I became an adult, and then James took over.
Right.
Some people call me Jim, Jimmy. I've got so many. I have no identity, Mike. That's the issue, you know. It seems I've got so many.
Do you ever get called Jimmy James?
I do, actually, yeah.
Okay, that's a cut from Check Your Head, the Beastie Boys album. It's
Right,
like the first
Jimmy
cut
James.
on the album, as I recall. And I always call my boy Jimmy James because of that great Beastie Boys.
Yep, you know,
feature.
it's my grandfather, I think, called me Jimmy James a lot, actually, yeah.
Awesome.
It takes me way back.
Well, dude, nice to meet you. You mentioned just before I press record, you said Great Lakes was a nice choice. Do you drink Great Lakes beer?
I drink beer, you know, generally
beer,
speaking.
yeah.
I wouldn't say I'm a connoisseur, but I'm a beer lover. I certainly do at times pick up some Great Lakes from the liquor store. I like to, you know, mix it up a little bit and
Sure.
a fine brew.
Okay, I just want to make sure you know at least one of those came straight from the fridge. You
I
can.
found
It's
it.
up to you. I'm going to crack one open.
Yeah,
now.
absolutely.
You want to join
Yeah,
me? Okay.
why not?
So what are you cracking?
It's
You got
3:30.
Listen, it's drinking time. So you got a Canuck Pale Ale.
Yep,
Okay.
I cannot pale ale.
You crack it. I'm going to do mine right on the mic. I got a burst.
All right. Allow me to as well here.
All right, so I toast you.
Yeah, cheers, Mike. Thank you for inviting me in.
Look, I'm looking forward to this. Buddy. So much stuff going on. Okay, so let me enjoy my Great Lakes. Thank you, Great Lakes. You're going to take some home with you as well, James.
Thank you. It won't last very long, I'll tell you that much.
And because you need something to eat with your craft beer from Great Lakes, I have a frozen lasagna in my freezer for you.
Oh, beautiful.
From Palma Pasta. So you can thank Palma Pasta for your dinner, Great Lakes for the bevies, and we're off to a roaring start.
Well, that's brilliant. Thank you so much.
Even though you're an Andrew, and I'm legit disappointed.
I'm called James, generally speaking, though. Okay, so
All right.
yeah,
I was told
Andrew
I was
part.
getting a James. I feel like there's a bait and switch.
I'm a
here.
phony. I know. I'm one of those James.
And there's so
phonies.
many Andrews. Like, I can't complain about this, man. I'm a Mike, okay? There are so many Mikes out there, but I feel like there's a lot of Andrews. Everyone's an Andrew or an Andy. They're just all over the place. There's a plethora of Andrews.
I was an Andy for a while as well back in the day, actually. You know, I think I rebelled against the James and the Jamie when I was, you know, probably 7 or 8.
Right.
I remember I was a big BMX fan. I remember I had the, you know, the number plate on front.
Yeah.
But back in those days, it was cool to put your name on there, and I put Andy on there.
Andy, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, I'm a confused human being. I don't know who I am.
I think you and I are identical, like the same vintage, I think. Born in 74?
Yeah, absolutely.
Me too, buddy. You're back in the good books.
A
okay,
fine year.
So before we learn more about you and we talk, can I even pull it off calling it footy? Like it's soccer.
I call it footy.
Footy?
Of course
okay.
you can. Yeah.
I feel like an imposter, but we'll work on this.
Not at all. We're now we're a soccer culture, a footy culture here now, so you can use it.
So once we qualified for the World Cup, footy became okay for guys like me who were raised with like soccer.
Yeah,
footy.
exactly.
Okay, we're going to talk footy. We're going to get to know you better. There's a whole whack of stuff I want to ask you about. But a few like notes off the top. What year did you arrive in this country?
I arrived here in 1990.
Okay, so because I know exactly how old you are, my brain is now computing. So before you got here, 1050, which is now TSN radio, 1050 was a top 40 station in this market. Okay, so
Yep. I was a fan 1430 guy.
right.
I guess in the early 90s, right?
Was that before? Okay, the early 90s it becomes a fan. Before that, it was CJCL, the music of your life. I don't know if you arrived in time for
I'm
that.
trying to think now. No, I know for sure 92, 93, the Leafs when they kind of had their breakthrough year. The fan was around then. I'm pretty sure, if not a year later.
I would guess the fan. They had the telecast before they were the fan. I think 1430, but I feel like 92 or 93 is when the fan sort of debuts.
Yeah, I remember listening to Howard Berger.
Okay.
And Storm and Norman, of course, every night for years.
Hammer head alert.
That's right.
Hammer head alert.
I learned about North American sports through the likes of Storm and Norman. Love it. Your boy Hebsy.
Okay, well, let's talk about my boy Hebsy. All these guys, I gotta soak this in. So Storm and Norman, how many drinks have I had? Storm and Norman Rumack has been on this show a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
Love him. What a sweetheart. He's had to leave the industry, which we'll get into later. But great guy, and the Hammerhead alert is for him. Howard Berger has been over. I used to listen to Howard Berger do his like Leafs updates on the Fan forever, much like you did. And how do you know Hebsy? Did you watch Sportsline?
Yeah, so 1990, I really got into North American sports around 92. My friends at that point were big Leaf fans. So that's good timing, of course. The Gilmore trade around the same time the Jays, obviously, were world champions. So
it's a good time here.
So how do I learn?
It's never been that good again.
And this was pre-internet, but no kidding. Pre-internet, amazingly, right? So how do you learn about sports in a new country where you watch TV? And I stumbled upon Sportsline, Hebsy and Taddy, and I just loved it. I loved the way they delivered the news, the fun they had with it. The Hebsys, of course, were just, still
guy.
legendary, right? Absolutely, yeah, Taddy, yes guy. And I learned, because at that time, the Leaf games were on global.
Right.
And they'd follow the games with Sportsline, I think it was, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So that's how I really got into
Sportsline, like 11:30, I think. Was
maybe
11 or 11:30?
Yeah.
Oh, my God, I should know this. But you and I are cut from the same cloth there, though, because I loved Sportsline. Like, it was appointment viewing for me.
Oh, it was amazing. I mean, it's just entertainment, right? Sports entertainment. It didn't take itself too seriously. And I think even today, we could learn some lessons from the way those guys did it.
Well, James, you should guest on Hebsy on Sports. Like, we now have a guest every Friday morning.
I'd love to.
That's via Zoom, though. But you Zoom in, I'll talk to Hebsy like at 9:30 in the morning on a Friday. I'm going to talk to him because I think he'd be great.
Well, he's a big Spurs fan, Tottenham Hotspur fan.
Yeah, okay. You know what? Tomorrow morning, I will tell Hebsy that James Sharman would make a great guest for Hebsy on Sports.
I would love
All right,
it.
so why did I bring up 1050? I brought it up because I recorded a special episode 1050. So episode 1050 of Toronto Mic'd is a tribute to 1050 Chum as a top 40 station in this market. So I had some legendary characters from that show. Who did I have on here? And these names will mean nothing to you, although one you might know of, but Chuck McCoy, who else was there? The Greaser, Scott Carpenter was there, Jim Van Horn.
Jim Van Horn, okay.
You know that name maybe from TSN.
Mm-hmm.
And who else was on that? Roger Ashby and Amber Pay. So I just want to let the listenership know that there's a exciting episode 1050 that will drop probably the day after I record episode 1049. You and I right now are 1041, so we got a couple of weeks to go. But wanted to let people know about that. And my friend, you a big Raptors fan?
You know what? I am every playoff season. I won't lie to you. I watch a lot of sports. Mainly of the international variety. However, I'm a big Leaf fan. I do certainly follow the Raptors, and I am certainly following this series.
Are you watching
am I a fan
tonight?
per se? I will watch tonight, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm got to say, this is a strange one because I buried this team in my heart after Game 3. So we coughed up Game 3, and it was just the worst way to lose. So down 3-0, I was just basically like, okay, let's get them next year. I was done. But then they did that thing where they win Game 4.
It's incredible, isn't
and
it?
fine, that's great at home. But then you go to Game 5 thinking in Philly they're going to, seal the deal. And then they win Game 5. Now they're coming home. We have the momentum, and now my heart thinks we can win this series. Like, I think we can win tonight, and why not win Game 7? Like, my hope is all back. Like, this is gonna if the Raptors go out in the first round to the 76ers, I'll have buried the team twice. It's like dying twice.
Well, you say why not, but I mean, it'll be the first time it's ever happened, right? From 3-0 down. But
right.
I mean, listen, like I said, I won't pretend to be an expert on the Raptors, aside from a bit of a fan, I guess, from the periphery. But all year long, they've done this, right? They've found strange ways to win, and they've surprised everyone. So why not? It could happen. And certainly, like I said, I'm a fair weather fan. I'm a bandwagon jumper with Raptors. I fully admit it, right? I haven't got enough time.
That's me and TFC, by the way, but we'll get into that.
I get it, though. I mean, if I tell the missus, oh, by the way, I'm watching the Raptors as well as the Leafs, as well as the Jays, as well as, 17 other soccer teams around the world, she would leave me. Right. So, I've got to pick and choose my battles here.
Right. No, absolutely. So, going to watch the Raptors tonight. And last thing I want to touch on before we talk about you is, are you a hockey fan? You a Leafs fan?
I'm a huge Leafs fan. I'm a diehard Leafs fan. I'll go as far as saying it's been a tough few years, of course, but like that's the first sport I really embraced when I moved to Canada, and it was because of Doug Gilmour and Wendell Clark, and that's why. Yeah,
I know that was a good team, man. That was the Pat Burns coached exactly. Leafs teams, and that was Final Four appearance. So back-to-back Final Fours, and that legendary Game 7 against the Kings in '93. But I still have my Doug Gilmour jersey hanging upstairs. I still throw it on now and then.
I've got a Wendell one somewhere in a box somewhere, I think.
All Heart, man. You ever seen that YouTube video, All Heart, set to Metallica's Hero of the Day?
I have not.
Yeah, okay, you got to do yourself a favor. Find this on the YouTube. This thing just blows my mind every time I watch it. It's just a highlight reel of Wendell Clark checks and fights and big goals, and it's set to Hero of the Day, and it just kills, man.
And it's funny, you hear him interviewed now, and he's the softest spoken, loveliest guy in the world. Then he has that switch, right, which some athletes have, I guess. And I know, man, I came from a sporting culture where fighting was frowned upon. Right. I moved here and suddenly, oh my God, this is the best sport ever, right? I loved it, and it's too bad that it's kind of fallen away from the sport these days. But hey, call me a Neanderthal. I enjoyed it.
Well, remember, Wendell wasn't a goon, right? He wasn't here to fight. He was here to score goals, and he could throw the haymakers and take on the Bob Proberts and stuff.
Most solely from that series you just mentioned, right? I mean, one of the greatest covers of the Toronto Sun ever the next day, wasn't it?
Right.
The black eyes under McSorley.
Now I'm missing the Pat Burns era. But Austin's got 60. And I mean, I just want to point out how extraordinary this is, that in this era of the game to score 60 goals is, I think only 2 guys have done it this century. I think it's Stamkos and now Austin Matthews. That's incredible.
It really is, yeah. I mean, listen, I've like I said, since 92, 93, I watched the Leafs, and I've seen Mats, and I saw Dougie, different kinds of players, but there's no one close to Austin Matthews. There just isn't. I always, I remember back in the day watching the Red Wings. They had Eisenman and Fedorov, thinking, man, I wish we had a Fedorov, that kind of guy who was the best player in the game.
We never had a top
10
guy even.
No, never.
I don't know, Gilmore, you could say, he was a top 15
for a year
guy
maybe.
Or whatever. Yeah. Right. Yeah, but he's like an Adam Oates type or whatever. But we never had the guy. We never had a Hart Trophy candidate.
Right? Yeah, the guy that's going to change the way. I mean, this is a Vince Carter in many ways. Even better perhaps. Yeah. But as far as I think the Leafs have lost a generation of fans, and this guy might bring them back if he stays around long enough. If he can get them through the damn first round.
Well, here's what'll bring him back. Yeah, a first round, because as you know, we haven't been out of the first round since 2004. So if I do the math on that, that's 18 years. Can that be true? That's 17, I guess, depending how it goes this year. But that's incredible, right? I got an 18-year-old daughter who's never been alive for a first-round win.
I mean, but how grateful are the Raptors of that pathetic record of the Leafs? It's allowed them to grow a fan base, and now I guess the Leafs, they won't admit it, they're owned by the same people, of course, but I think that they'd love to see the Raptors bow out in this first round and just take all the press themselves.
Well, that's why it's nice to have the staggered starts for once, because normally they start the same time, but the NHL's a bit delayed here. Okay, my friend, so you're 16 years old when you moved to Canada.
Just turned 16, yeah.
So what's it like? I was born in Parkdale, okay? I live I don't know, 10K from where I was born here. What's it like to be I can't imagine. What's it like to be 16 years old and to suddenly not just move out of town or whatever, but you left the continent?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, it was traumatic and terrible. I'm moving from England to Canada, right? Pretty nice country. My parents, middle class, nice suburban house, so putting that aside, there's from an emotional level, you're just finding who you are. You got your friends, close friends back home. You leave them. You got fun. So it had its my times, I guess. But overall, I was excited about it. Okay. I couldn't wait to get here. My parents met here in the 60s and then moved back to England, having myself and my sister. And then they always talked about Canada. So I remember the year before going on vacation to Toronto for the first time, and then it was slipped by a cousin or something saying, "Oh, by the way, you're moving here?" Like, what?
Heads up.
No, what are you talking about? So that's how I found out. But yeah, it was fine. I mean, I had to find new friends and new sports. But hey, listen, I remember standing in a school line in England at my high school, thinking to myself, man, this is fine. I'm moving to Canada, exciting. But I never want to be at a point where I look back and it's just a distant memory. And now here we are in 2022, and it's just distant memory. I'm Canadian now.
Well, welcome. I'm surprised you called it a line. Wouldn't that be a Q? Isn't that,
Yeah, you're right. You see, I'm Canadian now, Mike. What can I say?
Somebody was I can't remember now. Oh, yeah. So I was speaking on a Zoom with somebody from like London, England, and they were talking about the apartment they were looking at. And I remember thinking, wait a minute, like I know this person is like using the word apartment because they're talking to a North American, but like it's a flat, right?
It's a flat, yeah.
Or like, don't tell me about your elevator. I know it's a lift. Like
Okay, so when did an apartment become a condo?
Well, condos you own at least in this neck of the woods, you don't own an apartment. You rent an apartment. You own a condo.
Gotcha.
So I think that's the big difference.
Well, it's funny the terminology because now I'm still when I think of England now, I'm thinking of England in 1990. so apparently it's changed. Oh. And when I do go back there and assume it's the same and the same, it's like, oh wait, actually it has changed a lot. So it's funny how that changes over the time.
Do you think it was Americanized in some respect? Like,
probably,
that's from the fast food outlets. You probably only had a couple when you left, and now it's everywhere.
Oh, it's everywhere, yeah. No, exactly. One big city in the world is much like another big city in the world, right?
One last thing I always find interesting when I hear a British person speak about a truck. So is a truck? Is it a lorry? A lorry. Yeah. That's it.
A lorry. LORRY.
So that one lift and flat.
Yeah, but pretty soon you realize it's just easier to speak like the Canadians. Otherwise, you get these. I know it well. There's a look on a Canadian's face, when they have no clue what I'm talking about. It's like, you know what? I'm just going to slip the accent a little bit here and start using truck and elevator. And
don't dumb it down for me. I want to learn. Okay, I want to learn here. So when you moved here, it's Mississauga. That's where you end up, right?
Originally, yeah.
You know how I know that? Okay, what you're thinking, Mike? You stalking me? No. Bob Willette's Bob's Basement podcast. You were on that, and I just want to shout out my dear friend Bob and tell him I listened to the James Sharman episode of Bob's Basement, and it was very good.
It's a great show. Bob's fantastic, yeah.
Is it as good as this one, or it's better than this one?
Well, listen, I'm 10 minutes into this one.
Did he give you beer?
No, it was done via Zoom. I think it was deep in COVID, actually. So far, you're winning.
You know what? Shout out to Bob. I believe, Bob, it could be like COVID could be a distant memory, and it could be long eradicated. He's still probably going to Zoom you in. I'm not
really
sure he's
convenient,
equipped.
though, isn't it? But you do miss that.
But you know what? I was, as a guy, I'm on episode 1041, I think I said, and it's night and day to me. Personally, like in the enjoyment factor when I have someone in person versus Zoom.
There's no comparison, is there? There's some energy
feeding that energy.
I'm
like, he's right there. He's got that square jaw. I can reach out and touch him.
I know. Well, I mean, I do a podcast too, right? And it's just a little delay causes complete chaos, right? So it's so nice being actually, in the same studio at the same time, like real human beings should be.
Right. No, we don't. Although, I guess we could have a power outage, which would really fuck us up. But we don't have to worry about the Wi-Fi now. At least not for the recording. Okay. So, what's the name of your podcast?
It's called Footy Prime, the podcast.
Okay, and is that like an independent endeavor, or is that aligned with some?
No, it's independent. We got some news coming hopefully pretty soon about that.
You don't want to break it here, because this is where people come to break
I'd love to,
news.
but I just can't right now. But
the ink hasn't dried on the contract.
Essentially, when we left Sportsnet, myself, Craig Forrest and Danny Dickio at the time. We formed this podcast. They just now moved to the States. We've brought in Jimmy Brennan, a former Canadian player, and Brendan Dunlop, formerly of Sportsnet, and Dan Wong. Okay, you know Brendan. Yep. And Dan Wong is our producer. Our good friend Jeff Cole is involved. So there's about 5 or 6 of us now, and we just love doing it. It was an excuse to get together, just before COVID, and just for our mental health. It really helped through COVID, I think. And it's kind of blossomed now into 4 shows a week, and it's a ton of fun.
Hey, so I get to a TFC match whenever my buddy Elvis takes me. He's got seasons in the supporter section, and I guess 21 minutes into the game, there's the Danny Dickio
24, yeah.
24.
Yeah.
What is that, Danny? I mean, every time I'm there, I hear it and I engage in it and I love it. But what is it? Dicky?
Basically, Danny Dickio, ooh, Danny Dickio.
You're not gonna sing it in tune, no?
Oh God, no, far from it. No, he's my mate anyway. It's always weird singing that.
I would like to hear a podcast where you basically hear all the repeated like songs and chants and explain them all for guys like me, like who are like intimidated by this whole culture. Because you drop a guy like me in the supporter section, and suddenly there's this song you're singing at the 24th minute, and there's this French call and response with the other section.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's amazing. Like there's nothing else like it in the city, and I didn't grow up with footy, so like I'm learning, and I would love to know, like, okay, this is what we're doing now. Here's the origin, what it means. Like that's what I want to hear. Let's do that.
I won't lie to you. That's a great idea, but I won't lie to you. When it comes to lyrics, I love music, but I'm awful with lyrics.
Oh, that's like
my
my
ears
wife.
just don't really work that well. It sounds good, but I have no idea what they're saying half the time, right? So I need a song sheet.
My wife doesn't hear lyrics. She swears she says she loves music and she's always playing music. She just says her brain doesn't process the lyrics. I find this like difficult to understand because to me it's two things equal. Like there's a melody and a beat and a tune, and you hear that, but then there's lyrics and you hear that, and they have to kind of come together.
No, to me it's all merged together on me blob, some wonderful blob of superbness. You know, I love music.
There must be a name for that, like a medical condition.
I know my wife always laughs at me all the time when I'm singing along to a song. She goes, "What did you say?" I said, well, "That's wrong. That's completely wrong."
Okay, well, you're not going to be my co-host for this. What are they? Maybe Elvis. I'm going to reach out to Elvis and see if he'll do but he'll have to sing the Dickio song that you sing at the 24th minute.
Most of them probably aren't even repeatable.
That's okay.
But they are very creative.
Swear.
They're very creative around football grounds around the world.
Right. Okay, so we digress. We'll get back to that. But you're growing up in GTA. At what moment do you realize, like, James Sharman or Andrew Sharman or whatever the hell you were going by, I want to be a sportscaster? When do you realize that?
It came late, very late. You know what? I had no aspirations of being a sportscaster. You know, I wanted to be the athlete, you know, the guy lifting the trophies. But I realized at a pretty young age that, you know what? I love playing all sports, but I'm never going to be good enough. So I went to Ryerson. Well, you know, and I'm a sports junkie.
We just rebranded that school.
Sorry, the Metropolitan University, whatever it's called.
TMU. It's Toronto Mike University.
Sounds so generic, doesn't it?
Toronto Metropolitan University.
TMU? Okay. Right high, I'll call it right now.
Sure.
But listen, I took media arts, not RTA. That was a good one. Mine was crap. My course, it was just terrible. But it's 4 years of fun socially. I managed to scrape through with a degree. While at the same time, you know, watching every sport under the sun, loving sports, but not knowing that's the angle I want to get into. But then the last few months of my degree, Headline Sports was about to be launched.
Right.
And my good friend Aaron Murphy, he got me an internship there. So I began interning just before it launched in 1997. And because I had an accent, they figured he must know soccer and cricket and rugby. I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? Throw me in there. So I began producing this little segment called Sports World, 2 minutes a day. I'd have to get likes of Elliot Friedman and Brian Duff and these guys, Greg Sansoni, to voice these packs. And it kind of grew from there, and I began producing. I had no intention of being on air. The thought terrified me. It wasn't my thing. I didn't like being the center of attention, but you know, people began hinting, well, you should be voicing this yourself. Why don't you?
Well, you do have good pipes. And to speak to your point, or, you know, your observation, like if we hear a British accent like you have, even if you don't know what you're talking about, we think you do. Like
it's a real great gift to have, let me tell you, because I'm often speaking absolute crap.
Right.
But
we would never know
sounds
it.
intelligent.
Right.
Like, yeah, great.
Right.
But, you know, it's true. The accent helped, obviously, you know, and whoa, let's have this guy voicing our stuff for us. So it kind of grew from there. But I always found the producing side of television and media more enjoyable and more rewarding than the actual on-air side of things. But once someone offers you an on-air gig or an opportunity, it's tough to say no to it.
So if you again, we'll get back to the score here. I find that fascinating. 97, you're there for on the ground floor. But if you're born in my year, I'm curious. In the early 90s, did you buy into the grunge scene? Like, what was your kind of music?
I'm a rock and roll guy. I love Nirvana.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Me too.
Yeah, 100%. Okay. You know what? In fact, one of the biggest regrets of my life, I don't have many regrets, was 1994. Nirvana were playing at the Gardens in Toronto. And I had an exam. Now, I was the worst student, right? I would most occasions say, well, to hell with the exam, I'm going to see Nirvana. Right now, living around the corner from the Gardens, often we go to see a concert 5 minutes after it started and get scalpers for like $10.
Right.
So my mate comes back, hey, Shams, I've got Nirvana tickets, $10. I'm like, you know what? They're coming to Lollapalooza this summer. We'll go and see them there. So no, I just can't do it. I'm dying right now. My grade point average is way down. I have to do one thing.
Wow.
And then Kurt did what he did.
Right. Yes, April 94.
I never got to see them live, and it broke my heart. And April the 5th, I think, he's actually my birthday is when he killed himself, wasn't it?
Yeah. April 4, I believe.
Yeah,
is your
April 4th,
right.
was it? And yeah, so I missed the opportunity. But yeah, in the 90s, I remember seeing Pearl Jam with Soundgarden opening up for Neil Young at the Exhibition Place.
Wow.
And, I loved it. Just what a great era of music. And we needed it because prior to that, it was just drivel and crap, right? Let's be honest.
Well, I was all in, right? So you're preaching to the choir here, man. like Pearl Jam, Nirvana. I loved Alice in Chains, Soundgarden. Even when STP comes along, I was a big Stone Temple Pilots fan. So.
Hey, there's a great. I'm sure you've seen the Defiant Ones.
Pumpkins.
You've seen the series on Netflix.
Maybe say it again.
The Defiant Ones.
Maybe not.
It's about. You have to watch it. It's about Dre and this guy called Jimmy Iovine.
Yeah, I know his name.
And it's a backstory, but there's a great scene early on in that, and it's Dre, who's not known for rock and roll,
right?
Listening to Nirvana and just saying, this is the best fucking rock and roll band.
Wow.
In the world. I love these guys, and he's singing along to it, and he's so into it. And I thought, man, I love that scene, this cross, pollination of music. Right? Yeah, exactly, right. And Kurt did some wonderful things. He really did.
No, man, I'm all in on that. So many of those guys are gone now. I know. Okay, I'll give you a little. If anyone's listening to this and also listens to Toast, this is a spoiler alert. But the next episode of Toast, when Stu Stone and Cam Gordon visit, we're kicking out. Okay, let me try to explain this. I got to do it really quick, succinctly here. We're kicking out jams by bands that we like the song, but that song is not sung by the original lead singer that made them famous. So if you follow me. So for example, if I kicked out a Phil Collins Genesis song, okay, that would qualify because Genesis became famous when Peter Gabriel was the lead singer, okay? So I actually am kicking out, and don't tell Stu or Cam, I want them to be surprised. I'm a big fan of Alice in Chains, and I love Lane Staley, and I'm like, you can't have Alice in Chains without Lane Staley. Like, he's such a key part of that fucking band. And then Lane, of course, heroin overdose, dies way too young. But they replace him, and I actually saw, like, I had tickets to see Velvet Revolver.
Oh, Slash, right?
Yeah, Slash is in that, and Scott Weiland from Stone Temple Pilots. So, but the opening band was Alice in Chains with the new lead singer. So I come out, I'm like, I was there. I'm like, I got a ticket. I'm going to check them out, but it can't be the same. They sounded so fucking great. And then I got the new album, the new Alice in Chains with the new singer, and I dug that too. So what do I know, man?
Hey, listen, I get it, man. I am one of the world's biggest fans of Queen.
Okay.
All right. That's the soundtrack to my life. You know, if I am stuck on a desert island and given a turntable and a record collection, they're all Queen. All right. Now I resisted seeing Queen with Adam Lambert. I thought there's not even before him, Paul Rogers.
Because there's only one Freddie Mercury,
right? I can't see. It's just not the same. Then finally, I said, "Well, I'm being an idiot here. You know, Fred's not coming back. I'm pretty sure.
Right.
I'm going to check him out. Right. You know, and it blew me away.
Yep.
How good he was. He was incredible. Now he's not Fred. He's not trying to be Fred. They really honor Fred's name during the entire show.
Right.
But it's still Brian May and Roger Taylor. It's still Brian May on those incredible riffs on the Red Special up there, and I'm getting goosebumps, and I'm seeing Adam Lambert blasting it out. And if Freddie was born 25 years ago now, he's Adam Lambert now, right?
Wow.
So, yeah, I totally understand that.
And the best, what I think might be the best example of this is AC/DC.
Brian Johnson?
Yeah, like gone too soon, and then the first album with the new lead singer is Back in Black. New heights.
Yet some bands won't do it, right? I mean, even Led Zepp when John Bonham died, that was it. And
that
he's
was
a drummer,
right?
Crying out loud, right?
Right. Yeah, you think like the Who doesn't skip a beat when they, as long.
That's right.
It's like, okay, who do we need to keep this thing going?
I guess great music's great music, I suppose.
Yeah.
But it's not quite the same. But just to acknowledge that it's not the same, you can still enjoy it, I think.
At some point, James, you're going to have to return to this program to kick out the jams with me. That means we're going to play your 10 favorite songs of all time and talk about this, because I realize I could do 90 minutes on music with you. So
I'd find that very stressful.
It is stressful, and I get to enjoy you sweating as you try to come up. But eventually you'll prune it down to 10 because, hundreds have done this already, including the aforementioned Hebsy and others. You get me your list of 10. I load them up. You're going to hear them in the cans, and they're going to sound fucking great, even though you've heard them a million times before. And then I fade it down, and we hear your British accent explaining why you love...
I love that idea. I'd be happy to. But
apologies or whatever you're going to kick.
I would give it a lot of time ahead of time. I would give that show a lot of respect because that would be tough. But I'd come up with 10.
Okay, 10. The only caveat is 10 unique artists.
Yeah, okay. It's not 10 Queen songs.
Right, not 10 Queen songs. Right. Okay, we'll be doing that. So this is a teaser that eventually James comes back, and we're going to totally do that. But the score. Okay, so this is... pretty interesting that you find yourself on the air. And is it the footy show?
Originally it was Sports World.
Right.
So I mean, I was there for like 3 years before I got my voice on air. At the time, if you remember, they had the wheel, it was called. So this 15-minute rotation of highlights and news stories. And 3 minutes of that was...
And it wasn't even called the score, right?
It was Headline Sports
Sports
until I think 99, maybe 2000. Right. I forget when it changed over now. Then it switched to the score. This like 3 minute segment each day, and like I said, it'll be Elliot Friedman or Greg Sansoni voicing these packs. And then I went away for 6 months. I should say on vacation, not away to jail. I went on Southeast Asia for 6 months, and then when I came back, my boss goes, "Hey, listen, you should be voicing this now." So I thought, okay, let's give it a whirl. So I began voicing it, and then that grew into an actual show, which I pitched and pitched and pitched, and my boss at the time, Anthony Ciccone, was just the biggest. From a boss standpoint, a fantastic boss, but also the main reason why I'm on air now, giving me a chance. And that's how it kind of started, doing soccer, cricket, rugby, Formula One, anything outside North America, basically.
Right. Okay. And this is the footy show.
This is Sports World.
So I'm still...
Yeah. I know. So the Sports World, then 2007, the Score gets the Premier League rights, and then the footy show is born.
Okay. So, and TFC shows up in 06, right?
07 is when they were, I think they won the bid for the franchise in 06, and then their first games were 07.
So this is a little bit of I won't, we use the term perfect storm way too often. Not every perfect storm is a perfect storm, but this is ideal for you, that you're kind of in the right place at the right time, and suddenly we've got a Major League Soccer franchise.
Yeah, it's great timing, really. I mean, getting the Premier League the same year as TFC being born, the same year that David Beckham arrives in MLS too, with the Galaxy. So suddenly MLS is getting mainstream coverage. Right. So it was great timing for that. So I created this show, the Footy Show, with a great team behind me, but it was essentially multi-platform, 360 approach, a blog, a podcast, TV shows, all in support of our one Premier League game a weekend. Amazing.
Okay. And pardon my ignorance here, but what is the difference between the footy show and the hardcore footy show?
Okay.
Is one just more hardcore than the other? What's going on there? You swear on that one?
Yeah, Hardcore Footy Show was on Hardcore Sports Radio, satellite radio, Sirius XM. So basically it was more hardcore because we could drop F-bombs and no one cared, right? But yeah, it was separate from the Footy Show. It was a weird time that was, because you had the Hardcore Sports Radio operating in the same building as the Score. They weren't really connected too much, but they'd simulcast some of the radio shows on the Score.
And you did that with Christian Jack.
With KJ, and Brendan.
And Brendan Dunlop. Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Would you ever drop, and I'm just curious because I'll listen to Ricky Gervais and I find it to be very funny, but Ricky Gervais will drop the C word like it's nothing, right? Mm-hmm. And it's a cultural thing. Like, I can't even call it by its real name. I'm saying the C word. That's the difference, So he's littering his stuff with the C word, and I'm calling it the C word. What's your take on the C word?
Big fan. I'm a big fan of it, Mike. Yeah. So, I don't know. It's the one word, well, probably there's two words probably, right, in the English language that people grimace a little bit when they hear it.
Well, there's a few. Like, the R word has now emerged. Like, I don't like to hear the R word. You're probably going to ask me afterwards.
Yeah,
what word
you have to say what the R word is. It's probably really obvious now, isn't it? But I can't think what it is. The R word.
It kind of rhymes with leotard, but not really.
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't quite actually. I was thinking, what does it rhyme with? I'm like, I'm not too sure.
That's okay. I get what you're saying though. Yeah, it's a good word. It is a good word. It's an effective word. But you're right. It's
the C word.
Yeah.
Not the R word.
No, not the R word. No, that's not very effective. No. You go to Australia. And people drop it just in regular conversation, right? It's very different.
But if I erased the C word from my dialogue because of how offended some, Canadian, most of my listeners are in the GTA, for goodness sakes. The C word doesn't fly. But I know in England, it's morning zoo radio programs might use the C word.
It's. I'd say in England, it's somewhere between Australia and Canada.
Okay.
Again,
Australia, it's like littered. They say it in daycare.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, precisely.
Get over here, you C word.
Yeah. There's a great YouTube video about a goat, Kevin the C word. It's really quite funny, actually. Scotland too, they use it a lot in parts of Scotland.
I wonder what
too.
it is.
I don't know.
I think maybe we assign more of a gender to it than
perhaps.
And maybe because we assign a gender, it becomes extremely misogynist.
Here we use the term "I'm pissed off." No problem on mainstream TV.
Right.
Whereas in England, at least in 1990 England, right, okay, referring back to then, it was very much frowned upon.
Wow.
Would never make the airwaves.
See, this is interesting to me. The curse words that are more acceptable on the other side of the pond than they are here. Okay. And so pissed, I shouldn't say pissed off if I'm planning to go viral in England. That's going to work.
Well, I think a podcast you're probably fine with. Right. I wouldn't do it on the BBC, 6 o'clock news, for example.
BBC One, BBC Two. Shout out to Mike Myers. Okay. So let me just run through this bio a little further here. So this is mind-blowing to me, and I need the specifics. You did some play-by-play for TFC.
Yeah, just the first year. We picked up a couple of games.
Really? Like you're the lead, you're calling a Major League Soccer game for television.
Yeah, and that's why the score gave opportunities to people, right? And I mean, I was no way ready to be on TV to begin with. I was so green. I see tapes now. My dad's got the old tapes stuck away. So I said, oh my God, how did they allow me on? I was dreadful. And then my first ever play-by-play was a TFC game. And actually, I thought I did okay on it, actually. I quite enjoyed it, but it was a one-off. And then,
so you only got the one chance.
I got the one chance. I did some Copa America games in 2011, and that's really been it, play-by-play, which I was just a bit disappointed. But I did enjoy doing it, actually, but I'm not sure it was ever going to be my thing.
You still have, the recording of this game you called?
It's probably somewhere. I know Andy Welsh scored the goal, and he didn't score many goals. It was a 1-0 win for TFC in an era where they didn't win very often.
Right.
Against Houston.
Do you remember how you called the goal? Did you just give it a big old
There
goal?
it is, Andy Welsh, I think, or something ridiculous. That's all I had, I didn't have that trademark, line at that point, being it was my first time ever.
Right.
But I remember just the stress, making sure I got the right guy.
That's the difference. Yes, right. Get the right guy. Okay. That's the difference between you and I. If somebody said, Mike, you're calling your first TFC match tonight, I would spend all my time thinking about what will I say when the first TFC goal is scored. And that would be everything. What will I say? And I'd script something in my mind. Maybe.
What would it be?
I have to think on it. It would be something where I'd probably reference some obscurity in the Canadian pop culture. Like, I don't know if it...
Reba McEntire?
And that ball just bailed like Buffy. Which you have no idea what I'm talking about. Because
Buffy the Vampire Slayer? And
no.
Michelle Gellar's Canadian? I don't know.
She's not Canadian.
Oh, she's not?
No. Buffy St. Marie, and this is how obscure this is. So Buffy St. Marie is a great, singer-songwriter, a great Canadian singer-songwriter who now lives in Hawaii. But I grew up with her because she was on Sesame Street when I was being raised by Sesame Street in the late 70s. Sorry, because I'm your age. Okay, so she was supposed to sing on this charity single for famine relief. That we can thank Bob Geldof for this whole thing. But it's called "Tears Are Not Enough."
Right.
There's a 2.5-hour deep dive into "Tears Are Not Enough" in the Toronto Mike feed. That's your homework, James. You're going to listen to that. So me and Cam Gordon, who's my Toast co-host, we openly wondered, why wasn't Buffy on this track? Like, she should have been there. Where was Buffy? Then finally I get Terry David Mulligan on Toronto Mike, and I get to ask Terry David Mulligan. I know he was heavily involved in this world, and he tells me, he witnessed the call from Buffy to Bruce Allen to say something to the effect of, I can't make the recording in Toronto and I can't be there. And then Bruce turns to Terry David Mulligan and says, Buffy bailed.
Oh, hence the call.
Hence the call. And that call would mean something to a whopping 100 people.
Yeah, I guarantee the 22,000 at BMO Field on that day, in those days, not one of them would have got that reference.
But you know what? I would think so in my mind. I'd be like, I love the fact nobody gets this reference. This is so deep. If you get it, you deserve all the accolades. But if you don't get it, fuck you.
It's a hipster call.
But I'll never get the gig again.
No. But
I would be okay with that.
Yeah,
like one
that
and
was your
done.
moment, right? That's
and
your
I
moment.
went out with Buffy Bale. So all right. Well, you're one and done, and you didn't disappoint with some obscure reference like that. So you never know if you're going to be one and done. But okay. So what is interesting to learn though is that you did do the color. You were a color analyst for the radio broadcast.
Yeah, I did a few of those at Sportsnet, yeah. And to be honest with you, listen, I'm watching football, getting paid for it. How bad is that? I mean, it's great, right? But I'm not a color guy.
But you're not allowed to drink during the broadcast,
That's
are you?
the problem.
Well, then fuck that. Like it's ruining the game
If
for
I'm
you.
at a stadium, I better be in the bag, right? At least half in the bag, right?
Can I ask you, can the print guys drink? I always wonder, like, can the...
maybe in the old days, you get the old flask, and not nowadays. That it's a pretty sterile environment, that TFC press box, unfortunately.
Yeah, I've been there. I've been by there. It does look kind of sterile.
They should have draft beer available, I think, to the writers and
let's get some Great Lakes in there. Come on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, before I forget, I have a couple more things I want to give you. So you've got your beer and you got your lasagna. There's a Toronto Mike sticker on the table for you there. That is courtesy of stickeru.com. So
fantastic. Thank you.
People, when you're getting your footy podcast stickers and decals, you go to stickeru.com. Good people in Liberty Village, and it's a great product. So love those guys, Sticker U. The green, that's a tape measure, man. Like you just keep that. You never know when you got to measure something.
You know what? So many times each day, I'm like, I wish I had a tape measure.
All right, and that's courtesy of...
It must be bigger.
That joke hits me every time, and I'm like, Mike, too easy. Just too easy, but I'll leave that for James. Okay. Ridley Funeral Home. Thank you, Ridley. Brad Jones at Ridley Funeral Home. He's a great FOTM, but he also has his own podcast, which I thoroughly enjoy. It's called Life's Undertaking. So everybody pause this conversation with James Sharman and subscribe to Life's Undertaking with Brad Jones from Ridley Funeral Home. And last but not least, James, before we continue with the ongoing history of James Sharman, there's a toque. What do you call that in England? That's not a toque in England, right? A hat?
It's funny you mentioned that because there's a broadcast this past weekend and well-known players on the bench. It's quite cold. He's wearing a toque, and they called it a woolly hat.
A woolly hat?
Yeah,
okay, well, that's disappointing. But
yeah, it is a little bit.
But that's a toque, and that's courtesy of Canna Cabana. They won't be undersold on cannabis or cannabis accessories. There's 100+ locations across the country. Go to cannacabana.com to find out where a Canna Cabana location is near you. And I mean, do you partake?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm that regular, but certainly to unwind. And once the missus goes to bed at night and I put on some, Better Call Saul, it's nice. Yeah.
Well, there's an ashtray for you, courtesy of
fantastic.
Canna Cabana. Enjoy, again, won't be undersold. Become a Cabana Club member at cannacabana.com. All right, my friend. So the score, we kind of alluded to this, but the score gets purchased by Sportsnet. This is 2012, and they rebrand that thing Sportsnet 360. What happens to you at this point?
Yeah, at that point, it was great for a while because around the same time there was a new show being launched in partnership between Sportsnet and Fox, and it was the Fox Soccer Report. And it would be simulcast on Fox in the States and on Sportsnet World. And so I kind of double dipped there for a while, which is amazing, which if you're not sure what that means to the listeners, it means basically you're getting paid by both companies to do the same job. So there was about 2 months there I was doing during this whole process because I was getting to the point with the score where I love the score. They're my best days of my career at the score. But it comes to a point where you're looking for something else, a new challenge. So I set my tape to Sportsnet, and I'd heard nothing at all. Something, oh Christ, these guys don't want me at all. TSN had the department already. It's not happening. But it was because there's this acquisition in process,
right?
And they couldn't reach out to anyone currently working at the score. So then this happens, and then these Fox show launches. I'm pulled over there, so I'm doing both these shows. The sad part is the footy show kind of died at that point, which broke my heart. It was my baby. I was so proud of that show. But yeah, so basically that happened, and then I jumped aboard and filled in for Jerry Dobson on the Premier League broadcasts and the Champions League broadcasts, sitting beside Craig Forrest. and Danny Dichio, and it was a few years of absolute joy. I loved it there.
And all's honky dory, and you lived happily ever after.
Yeah,
Thanks,
still
James,
there.
for
Wait a minute,
coming.
that's
Okay.
about it. No, it was great, And Jerry
How
was
long
fantastic.
were you at Sportsnet?
2013 till 2019. So I
What
think it's-
happens in 2019?
Oh, well, see, we saw the writing on the wall for a while there. So, Sportsnet get the hockey deal, which at the time, I guess, made sense. But it meant that they'd have to let go of some sports, simple as that, And they lost out in the bidding for the Premier League and the Champions League. DAZN comes around, will snatch up both of those eventually. Right. So we kind of saw the writing on the wall. We knew it was coming, so it was no surprise when they said, "Listen, guys, we just haven't got properties for you. We don't need a soccer department." So there was no animosity. I know people want to find some dirt there, but there was no animosity. It's just a business decision. But
They had no games to cover.
Yeah, exactly, right. And they had, the Premier League's the crown jewel of world soccer as far as a rights situation.
Right.
The Champions League's probably number 2. And without both those, they had Bundesliga still, FA Cup, but not enough to justify a department.
And those leagues are still still kind of like in Canada, at least. There's a what do you call it? Like a cult following. I don't know what
for the FA Cup and Bundesliga.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Well, I mean, Alphonso Davies plays in Germany in the Bundesliga, right? So, but they're not. It's not even close to the Premier League. That's the one you want,
right?
And that's
the one Hebsy's watching every.
Yeah, exactly.
It's Saturday mornings.
Yeah, exactly. Saturdays and Sundays. Yeah, so that happened. We saw the writing on the wall there. Still, it comes as a bit of a shock, obviously, and it's not a great day when you finally find out.
How do they tell you though? Like, do they put you in a room and they just say?
I just had a meeting with my boss, and he goes, "Hey, Shams, you're up for renewal in your contract. You know what's going on here. Here, sorry, nothing personal."
Do you get any severance to go away, or they just say we're not?
No, I got severance. I got a good deal actually in the end.
Okay.
They were very fair to me,
That makes me feel
I
good.
can't complain about that. And now I freelance with them now as well. So not burning bridges is probably the best advice I can give
Well, it's
anyone.
a small
really.
world. You can't afford. You can't burn down the Rogers Bridge. Well, there's
Right.
only a couple of freaking bridges. How are you gonna get home?
Losing your job, no matter how it is, it sucks, right? So it's easy to have an emotional response, but you have to suck it up, I think, unless they're
because
really
you're a young
unfair.
man. Like, it's one thing when you're out of fucks to give because you're like 65
There were
years
still
old.
a few fucks there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're only just did the math. You're almost 50. Watch out, buddy.
Oh my
Okay.
God, stop it!
I
know.
I try not to think about it.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a great question came in from Graham. Graham says, this is his question for you, James. What's the better company to work for? The low budget, The Score, or the full Rogers experience? Sportsnet covering the EPL.
That is a really great question.
Is that your burner account, Graham?
It's a great question. They're very different experiences, right? So at The Score, literally the owner's office door was open. John Levy, you could literally walk in there and chat with John anytime. There weren't layers to get to the top guy. Sportsnet, it's far more bureaucracy. It's a big corporate machine. I got so much freedom at The Score to try what I wanted. I could do pretty much what I wanted. At Sportsnet, they got their ways, and this is how you do it. So I'm glad I saw both sides to it. The grass isn't always greener. I had more fun at The Score. It was really rewarding just trying what I wanted to try, pitching shows, getting my own shows, creating content. But there's something to be said also for, hosting the biggest games in the world.
Do you have kids?
On a weekly. I have a daughter, yeah.
How old is
she's
your
11.
So maybe that's also part of it. Like
Yeah, it comes. Yeah, well, there's no doubt about that, right? Listen, The Score was fair to me too, but I mean, yeah.
Well, The Score would, those years before children, like.
Oh, I mean, that environment. I mean, we're a family, right? I'm in touch with all those guys still, from Tim and Sid, Cabby, you name it, right? Elliot, they're all great guys. But back in the late 90s, early 2000s, I mean, that was a fun place for young people downtown Toronto with the studio there. It was just an absolute party. It was fantastic.
Great question, Graham. Now, Brendan Dunlop. Was he caught up in this 2019 soccer purge?
No, B lost. He was. There's another purge.
Was it a later purge?
I think it was a couple. I'm not sure when it was. A couple of years ago now, maybe more than that.
Yeah, but even 2019 is only 3 years ago. I know it feels like longer because it's before the pandemic.
It wasn't the same purge. There was a different purge.
Multiple purges going on in mainstream media. So I hear. Okay, so let me ask you about One Soccer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, One Soccer is got a lot of potential as well. They're finding their feet. They're financed by Media Pro, this global production company, a lot of live sports. They were created in unison with the Canadian Premier League, which is launching 3 years ago. Just as a pandemic hit, they launched basically, and it's just such sad timing for them, but they'll be fine. So One Soccer, and I've freelanced for them here and there. I like those guys a lot as well. It's just showing how the game's grown in this country. It's a soccer-specific network.
Bob McCowan, you're often on his podcast as the footy expert. What's Bob like? How well do you know Bob?
I know him pretty well now. He's a fantastic dude. He loves all the misconceptions about Bob are just that, right? He's a good guy, but he's also a smart guy. He knows how to push the right buttons. And his whole thing with me was, for years, the soccer community hated him, despised him.
Well, no, because I listened to primetime when I had a commute. It's been a long time, but I used to listen to primetime sports in my car when I'm driving home on the highway. Bob shit all over soccer forever. Like, this was his thing. Soccer's like watching paint dry. Nobody wants to watch a 0-0 game. It's shocking he's watching any soccer now because he literally shit over it for decades.
Yeah, well, no one's got thicker skin than Bob McCowan, right? So he knew what he was doing. He was upsetting the soccer faithful who would then react and then would make sure they're listening. He's smart that way. So, Bob might not be a huge fan of soccer. I think he'll acknowledge that, but he doesn't despise it. He brings me on his show every now and again.
Well, true. Here, yes, because now he has no choice, to be honest. We're going to get to that next. But it's one of two things. Either Bob hates soccer and doesn't appreciate the beautiful game, right? Either that or Bob's a liar. Like, it's one or the other.
Yeah, I think though, if you hear Bob talk about a lot of sports, he's like that grumpy old man, niche with sports, right? Which I like, because he asks questions that you wouldn't ordinarily be asked about it, right? He finds the business side fascinating. He doesn't really care about who's playing left back for TFC. Right, obviously, but right. I find it always a really entertaining interview because he'll ask me things.
Does Bob McCowan give you lasagna?
No lasagna. No. So, Bob, if you're listening,
shout out to Palma Pasta.
I want some lasagna next time on your show.
At least some fresh craft beer from Great Lakes. Okay, my friend. So the reason Bob can't ignore soccer anymore is because of Team Canada. Okay, I will tell you, I'm a guy. I never played soccer growing up. I don't know why. Even looking back, like, all my kids, 4 kids, all in soccer. Soccer was the easiest thing to put them in. I tried to put them in other things too, but soccer was like the slam dunk, easiest thing to put your kid in. I don't know why I never played soccer growing up. I'm getting angry. I was deprived of playing this beautiful game. So I didn't grow up with the game. As you know, Canada never had a sniff at the World Cup since '86. I have zero memory of the '86 World Cup because I think I didn't care about soccer when I was 12 and I just ignored it. Although I do remember the 1990 World Cup because my buddy was from West Germany and we were waving the flag with him and it was a big deal to him. So basically, shout out to Chris. But I didn't care about soccer, never cared about soccer. TFC shows up. I go to a few games in the supporters section and I love it. And then I find myself loving the international competitions. Like if it's the World Cup, I was tuning in, loving every game. The Euro Cup, I was loving every game. This Canada qualifying tournament to get into the World Cup, I watched every minute I could, and absolutely I adore this Team Canada soccer team.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing amazing things. They are. I mean, listen, number one, they're very, very good. Secondly, they're very likable. They got some brands there. They got a global superstar, and he is there. Alphonso Davies is a global superstar. With respect to, I like hockey. With respect to Connor McDavid. Okay. No one knows who he is outside of Canada or the States, right? Alphonso, and I love saying that, upsets hockey fans.
Well, I believe that would be true. But maybe you know him in like hockey playing nations, but there's only like 10 of them.
But even then, like Sweden and the Czech Republic, they know who Fonzie is. Right. Probably more so, I think. Maybe
is he Canada's most famous athlete right now?
I think he probably is. And if he's not, he's going to be very, very soon. I mean, Michael Warner. I think he probably is.
Well, there's the guy in the Nuggets. But I think Alphonso Davies would likely be number one right now.
Yeah, he probably is. But yeah, they're just a great team with a charismatic coach. Yeah, and it is obviously a thirst for success in this country, and success being qualification for a World Cup. So I think the timing's great, given that there's a World Cup in Canada in 2026. So it's not like they're going to qualify for this World Cup and not again. They're going to be in it for a while.
Okay, I'll do a quick question on that since you introduced that, and then I'm going to come back to this Team Canada I've fallen in love with. I've fallen in love with this Team Canada the way I've fallen in love with Matea Roach. Do you know that name, Matea Roach? Does that mean anything to you?
I don't think so, no.
It's okay. It means you're not watching Jeopardy.
No, you're right. Oh, she's the one that's doing so well, right?
She's won 17 in a row.
Okay.
Me and my 20-year-old, like this is our, and my wife's really into it too, but appointment viewing, like we are following the Matea Roach game like as if that's a sporting event. So it's like, okay, Raptors are tonight, the Jays are right now, like the Jays are playing right now, whatever, Leafs playoffs start whenever, and they have Matea Roach is at 7:30. Okay, so we're going to get back to Team Canada, but Diamond Dog sent in a great question about the 2026 World Cup. He says, without the need to qualify for the 2026 World Cup, will that be an advantage because it allows more friendlies against stronger sides, or a disadvantage as the competitive edge will be missing in the lead up?
Another great question, actually. Yeah, you're just smart listeners. That's a great question. I would say it's going to be an edge in that Canada, CONCACAF, the region they play in Central North America, isn't very strong right now.
Okay, because that's going to be tied into my question. So I want to finish with Diamond Dog, and then I have a question about that.
Okay, sure. So yeah, it's not the strongest right now. It's in a bit of a decline. There are Gold Cups in between. There are what they call Nation League games now, which are competitive matches, not just friendlies. So there are competitive games, and you can now, because of being in North America, Canada will be a real destination for some big teams to come and play games here, or to invite Canada over to Europe. So I think it's going to be a good thing, quite honestly. It's a 48-team World Cup, so even if there was qualification, Canada would qualify in a breeze.
So
right?
how many in 2022?
32 teams.
So 32, that's what we're typically
48.
used to. It's going to 48.
And it could mean potentially six CONCACAF berths, maybe more, given that there's automatic berths, right? Which is, frankly, it's a joke, but that's FIFA, they're greedy. But the bottom line is, I think it's going to be a good thing. Moving forward, obviously, you want competitive games, but by that point, this current young group will be in their prime. So
okay, so back to that group. I have to confess, the only international games I've seen Team Canada play are against CONCACAF opponents. Okay, so I watched this whole tournament to qualify for. And how are you saying the name of the host country?
That's another. You see,
that's my question. I want credit for that.
I think it's Qatar. I've always said Qatar.
Yeah, I've always said Qatar, but then someone said it's Qatar.
Yeah, I think it is Qatar. I heard that from someone from there.
We need a ruling. I want to get this
There's
right.
going to be a lot of confusion between now and
This is like when
November.
you learn Liev should be leave. Like
I know, exactly. No, I'm going with leave right, these days for obvious reasons. But it's sure. I think it's Qatar. But we better figure this out.
Okay, that's important. Okay, so back to, I hear the kids have come home upstairs, but don't worry, they won't get picked up by these mics. Okay, so I've only seen, Canada versus Jamaica, Canada versus Costa Rica, Canada versus Mexico, Canada versus United States. This is all I've ever seen, and we look fantastic. Like, Jonathan David, Kyle Larin, Alfonso Davies, you mentioned, Osorio, Buchanan, like these guys, the goalie, Borean, so I'm learning how to pronounce these names as well. Fantastic. Now, I have no sense, I have no idea how this team would compare to the typical the
powerhouses.
The powerhouses in international football. Tell me now, I need to know, how do you think this Team Canada shapes up when we have to play teams like Belgium
and Croatia? Yeah, my guess is this: they're a good team. They won't be embarrassed by anyone.
Will we score a goal?
Yes,
because we didn't do that in 86.
I'm going to say we're going to. I know, I feel bad for those guys. They qualified for a World Cup. Give them a break. Come on, didn't score a goal, but I think that is a real valid question. I think there's still a gap between Canada now and the top teams across the world, obviously. But I think they'll be competitive. I don't see them beating Belgium. The thought of getting points of Croatia, who is an aging team, but it's still a team oozing in class, would be an incredible achievement, but not impossible. And then you have Morocco, a team that I think Canada can get points off. So you make a valid point. CONCACAF is what we've seen so far. It's hard to compare them. There's going to be big games coming up shortly in June and later this summer as well against bigger European teams and South American teams. Yet to be confirmed, but it's going to happen, and then we'll get a better gauge. Okay, because I used to work for a software company that was headquartered in Frankfurt, Germany, okay? And there was some World Cup, and I will tell you this was not best on best. Like, as I tried to explain to these German guys, like, our best guys are in the NHL playoffs, okay? But there was some World Championship where the bet was not best on best, but Canada lost to Germany.
they treated it like it was like a Canada Cup final. It was World Cup final or something. Like the ribbon I took that Germany beat Canada in hockey because they always believed, Germany's the kingpin. Sorry, Canada's the top of the mountain when it comes to hockey. Germany beat Canada. Oh my God. That would be like, and they would say this to me, that would be like Canada beating Germany in soccer. Like this was the comparison they would throw at me all the time.
But it's not true, is it?
And at the time though, I would dare to dream. But I'm curious now, and we can't simulate this. I don't know if you've got the software to simulate this, but I'm going to ask you about Davies in a minute, but it's health. But a healthy Team Canada against Germany right now in an important match where both sides are trying their best. What's the final score?
2-0 Germany.
Okay, that's not bad.
There you go. They'll take that, right? You have to realize that this Canada team has one global superstar, right?
Yeah.
You have some good young players playing in second-tier leagues.
Is that
right?
David's
John David in France. France is a good league,
okay,
but it's not top 4 league in Europe, for example. He's going to move there probably to England this summer, and then we'll find out.
Okay, I'm glad you're here. I need to be educated here.
You got Nastacchio, who's great, playing right now on loan in Porto. In Portugal. Again, he's maybe Canada's standout player in this qualifying, but he's not getting many minutes. Richie Larrere, maybe the best fullback, isn't playing at Nottingham Forest in the league championship, the second tier in English football. Milan Bojan, Red Star Belgrade. That's Serbian football is good football. It's intense, but it's not a top league. So these aren't guys.
Right.
They're playing in good leagues for good teams, and most of them are starting in these.
So we
leagues,
have one guy who's playing in a top level, and so Alphonso Davies aside, the rest of the team, you're saying these are not elite.
No, well, not yet. They're young enough, most of them, that they might get moves to those leagues. But right now, they're still very much growing. Buchanan, you mentioned there, right? He moved from MLS to Club Bruges in Belgium, right? That's not.
You ever seen
league.
In Bruges, the movie?
About the assassin, right?
It's fucking amazing.
I haven't seen it. Who's
Colin
in that
Farrell?
Again? Colin Farrell, that's right, yeah. No, but I must watch it, though.
Honestly, it's excellent.
I don't think Buchanan's in that movie, though.
I got to check the extras.
I think David's more like the assassin in the team, not so much Buchanan. But he's a guy he's made the step to Club Bruges, a big step, and he might make a further step by the time the World Cup comes around. So it's an interesting, journey to watch.
I'm getting an education. I have no idea what to expect, but knowing this, whenever I root for a team, like I just can see us now losing to Morocco or whatever.
Listen, Morocco's a good team. People can't be dismissing these teams.
They're all good teams,
the
right?
World Cup's tough. Right,
because they qualified.
Yeah,
right.
just go. Quite frankly, it's great.
But we won that CONCACAF group. Like we
bossed it. Yeah, absolutely.
So it's sort of like being the best in CONCACAF. Like I know the elite. I know Brazil's there, and I know these European nations are strong. But
CONCACAF. I mean, traditionally speaking, you got Mexico and you got the US.
Yeah,
Mexico is a global force. They always look good at World Cups. They crash out in the knockout phase, but they're a good team.
Right.
The States are a team that have made quarterfinals at World Cups before. They're a good team, right? But they're both those teams are in transition during this campaign.
And is our goalie as good as he seems to look? Like Borjan seems to be.
I love the guy. You know what? He's such a character. He's a very good goalkeeper. He's not world class. In this qualifying campaign, he was. I mean, if not for him, they're not finishing in first place. It's as simple as that, right? But it's a guy that he's aging a bit now, but he's going to be the guy between the posts, I would think, by the time the World Cup comes around. And he's going to be one of those guys who can sell this team because he's so charismatic.
Okay. I got an ask for you. This is a favor. When the Toronto Mike asks a favor, there's only one answer that's acceptable here. Now, I'm thinking, since you're coming back to kick out the jams, would you come back to kick out the jams and talk about this team during the World Cup in Qatar?
Absolutely, yeah. 100%.
I recorded that. And okay, so then we'll pick it up then. I won't ask for any predictions because do you have an update? I mean, you'll know what I know, I assume. You don't have any inside channel. You're not texting Alphonso Davies, are you? I thought he was going to come back at some point in March or something, and I haven't seen him play in a long time.
No, he's back now. He's back now for Bayern Munich.
He's playing?
He came back, about a month ago now.
See, I'm out of the loop.
He's starting big games once again. He's healthy, thankfully.
He's healthy.
It was a grave concern, obviously.
It was a heart thing, right?
Yeah, it was. He got the myocarditis from COVID.
Yeah.
Was it the vaccine? Was it the COVID? Who the hell knows? But he got, So he's back now. He's healthy, and he'll be just fine. Fingers crossed for the World Cup.
Okay, and remind me again the name of your podcast.
Footy Prime.
Footy Prime.
Footy. So you can use it. Footy Prime, the podcast. Yeah.
And remind me whose voices do I hear on that besides your own?
Yeah. So Craig Forrest, who had 50 caps for Canada.
I remember Craig Forrest.
Yep. Jimmy Brennan, who played for Canada, was TFC's first captain.
Yeah.
Played in England for years as well.
Okay.
Brendan Dunlop, who we've spoken about.
And I've never met the man, but I just know
you
him
should.
from,
He's a good guy. He's a good guy.
Would Brendan Dunlop do Toronto Mike? Would you tell him, hey, get your ass over there?
I'll tell him to get his ass over here.
Okay, let's do it.
In a second, yeah. He'd love to.
Okay.
All those guys would, I'm sure. And Dan Wong's our producer and occasional voice and the soul of the show. And Jeff Cole. So there's a bunch of us, yeah. And we have a really, really fun time doing it. It's a podcast of fun, aren't they? They're just great.
You know why? Because you can say the C word on podcasts, although I'm not doing that. Okay. So, James, I'll be real talk here. This is the Homer Real Talk. I tweeted you were coming on, and multiple people said, is he bringing you a pie? Okay. So I saw you exit your automobile, and you were coming to the side door, and I went out the side door, and I said, James, I'm telling you to use the side door. Nothing in your hands.
Mike, I'll be honest with you. I'm driving down here on the Gardner, and I went, shit, I should have brought him pies. Damn it. But I've got an invite back here, right?
100%.
So when we do the music one, I will bring you a box of pies. I promise you.
And you mentioned that question from Graham was really strong. I'm starting to think Graham is you, because there's another question from Graham. He says he wants to know the 5-year goals for Sharman's proper pies. Ooh. He says chicken balti is top notch, and Footy Prime is the best. I think this is you. Actually. I'm going to call a spade. It's you.
I'm going to pay.
What's Mike talking about? Sharman's proper pies. Like, you're a guy who talks about soccer. What the hell am I talking about?
Yeah, it's funny. When we began seeing the writing on the wall in the whole media world and Sportsnet, right? Me and the wife were talking, and she's a real entrepreneurial spirit. She wanted a product business.
Okay.
And it's long story short, my mother-in-law comes to stay with us for a couple of weeks, which turned into almost a year. Long story there. That could be a podcast by itself. But she used to make pies back in Alberta and sell them at a farmer's market, right?
Is she from Alberta?
She is, yeah.
What part?
Red Deer.
Okay, I only ask what part because I hear my wife's voice upstairs. She's from Edmonton.
Okay, gotcha.
Not Red.
So anyway, so she, me and the wife were talking, thinking, you know what, pies in Toronto, it's hard to find real good ones. You know, there's a pie commission out here is pretty good, but it's out East End. There isn't that much.
Yeah, that's in my neck of the woods. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, right.
So I thought, well, let's give this a whirl. I need potentially a new career because soccer's going nowhere in this country.
Right.
So she basically taught me how to make pies. We began selling pies at the local farmers market. It took off really well. I got laid off from Sportsnet. It gave me some time to really focus on this business. We got a building, we got a kitchen, we got a storefront on the Danforth, and it's about 2 years old now, right in the heart of the pandemic. But the delivery side of things went off the charts because of the pandemic. And now it's gone from strength to strength. It's doing really well. We're looking to expand. And the 5-year plan, Graham, is we want to be around Canada. Simple as that. You know, that's the 5-year plan. We're not quite there just yet. We're around Ontario right now, but we're hoping to really expand, so it's all about finding the right investors, you know?
You never know what the future holds, right? Like you're a sports broadcaster in the soccer world, footy world, and then next thing you know it, you're running Sharman's proper pie.
I know. If you told me 6 years ago, 5 years ago, I'd be doing this, I would have said you're out of your head. There's no chance. But okay. I love cooking. I love the food space. Found it interesting, and it seems to have taken off.
Well, look, I mean, the Danforth, I'm thinking not quite the Danforth, but at least you get a little east of Yonge, and there's a new Great Lakes Brewery pub opening up at on Lower Jarvis near Queens Quay.
Okay.
Or Lakeshore is that? Anyway, right down there at the bottom. And I'm saying, I got to talk to my guys at Great Lakes. There's got to be a collaboration here, man, like a Sharman's Proper Pies, Great Lakes Brewery.
Well, pies and pints, right?
They go together so well.
Yeah, I mean, pies are a real staple at English football stadiums, the chicken balti in particular. And you go there, you get your pint of beer or a bovril, and you get a pie. And that's
Amazing.
Just kind of, that's what you eat at football stadiums across the UK.
All right, before I play us out, man, I'm completely unplugged from TFC this season. I do bandwagon jump. I bandwagon jump with that team. I was really excited about the MLS Cup runs and the two finals back-to-back, I guess. And then I was super jazzed, like following that team closely, but I've lost touch. What's going on with TFC?
Yeah, well, it's going to be an exciting year, right? They're a young team who are still trying to find themselves under a brand new coach who's a really experienced coach in Bob Bradley, who is Michael Bradley, the captain's dad. He is going to get this thing turned around. They spent a lot of money on an Italian superstar called Lorenzo Insigne, who's arriving in July.
Okay.
He'll be making more money than most North American athletes. He'll be the highest.
What kind of money are we talking about?
The rumors are $15 million a year.
Yeah, that's more than Austin Matthews.
Yeah, precisely
Wow.
right. Baseball aside, I mean, that's a lot of money. So this guy's coming from the Italian Serie A. He's an Italian European champion with the Azzurri. And he's going to, once he figures this league out, he will boss it. He's better than Giovinco as far as his resume is concerned.
Wow.
Will he do what Giovinco does? Who knows? That was pretty special. But he's going to really, I think, put bums in seats, so to speak. And TSC will be fine. This might not be their year this year, but they're building towards something.
Dude, I'm already like excited about your next appearance here. Not just because I'm getting the pies, but because Canada will be in the World Cup. I can't wait.
Oh, it's great.
So when are these? When do I get to see a friendly or whatever we call these?
Early June will be the first one.
Who's it
and
against?
It hasn't been announced just yet.
Oh, you don't know.
But I suspect it could be a pretty big team coming up to Toronto. That's my guess. So yeah, it's going to be a fun summer. Don't switch off. The World Cup's November, but there's going to be so many storylines. Couple of windows, don't switch off from Canadian football just because it's the summertime.
Well, that's what that's like. So it was like bang, 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 and you're excited. Your next match is this, next match is that, bang, and then it's like, okay, see you in November.
Yeah,
and it's
exactly.
like, wait a minute here.
That's why you gotta subscribe to Footy Prime the podcast. And keep it going.
Sold. Okay. Well, why is it we got to make that a TMDS production? Come on, and you're gonna get Brendan Dunlop over here. We'll talk more about it, and I can't wait to get you back here, James. I love this, buddy. Thanks for doing this.
Well, thank you so much. Absolute pleasure, and thank you for the beer. It's delicious.
And that brings us to the end of our 1041st show. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Toronto Mike. James, how can we follow you?
At James Sharman on Twitter.
Follow at James Sharman on Twitter. Our friends at Great Lakes Brewery are at Great Lakes Beer. Palma Pasta's at Palma Pasta. Make sure I get you your lasagna before you depart, my friend. It's in my freezer. Sticker U is at Sticker U. Ridley Funeral Home is at Ridley FH. And Canacabana are at Canacabana_. Go Raptors, go! And see you tomorrow when my special guest is Dr. Brian Goldman.
Much better man for having known you. You know that's true because everything is coming up rosy and green. Yeah, the wind is cold, but the smell of snow wants me today. And your smile is fine, and it's just like mine, and it won't go away. Because everything is rosy and green. So that there's a sucker born every day. But I wonder who, yeah, I wonder who. Maybe the one who doesn't realize there's 1,000 shades of gray. 'Cause I know that's true, yes I do. I know it's true, yeah, I know it's true. How about you? Are they picking up trash and they're putting down roads? And they're brokering stocks, the class struggle explodes. And I play this guitar just the best that I can.